Welcome to Epic Geek Out, the only show on the internet that sings Hold Me Closer, Tony Danza. I'm your host, Rob.
And I'm your host, Chad, and today we're talking about the new movie, Don Jon.
And then on Thursday, we're going to be giving our review of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
As always, you can check us out over at Twitter at Epic Geek Out. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Epic Geek Out. And also check out the website, www.epicgeekout.com. But let's get into our review of Don Jon. So Don Jon is written, directing, and stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Also stars Julianne Moore, Scarlett Johansson, and it is the story about
Tony Danza.
Tony Danza. It's his biopic. No, it's the story of a man who has a certain finite amount of loves in his life: his family, his car, his pad, his boys, and porn. So it is the kind of a comedic portrayal of someone who is going through a porn addiction and kind of how that affects different relationships as well. So this is his first directorial effort. And Chad, what do you think of Don Jon?
Yeah, I was actually excited for this because I'm a huge fan of Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I think he's a really good actor.
Bit of a different character than 500
sure.
Days of Summer, and it does show his range.
Yeah, I mean, just
takes place in Jersey.
Yeah,
also I think is pretty important. But
a lot of stuff he's done the past couple years really liked. So excited, just because he's seems like a good guy.
Yeah, like, very likable guy.
Likable. It was kind of weird. I don't know what really was supposed to be taken from this. I mean, pretty much right up until the last maybe like 15 minutes of the movie, there was no point to the movie. I mean, it was really all about the porn addiction and just like wacky stuff that happened. And I mean, kind of like an anti-relationship movie, I guess you could put it that way. It was just weird.
You think
it just felt weird. Yeah, I think so. I mean, until the last 15 minutes, which is where I think they tried to put in a little bit of meaning and, takeaway.
I think it was more about his lack of being able to connect himself with people until he actually learned how to do that. But good.
Yeah, I think but I don't think that was touched on until the last little piece. And then at that point it was just like, here's this little message to take away, but like, wasn't that worthwhile in my opinion? I mean, for a whole movie, I don't know, but I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. But I think if it wasn't Joseph Gordon-Levitt in that role, I wouldn't have liked it at all. So I think
because he's also not like a good guy in the movie. Like he does a lot of detestable things, has some anger issues. I mean, he's not a very likable character like he's played in other movies. So it's really that just because Joseph Gordon-Levitt is playing it, that you can like this character really does say a lot.
True. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, if this was like some other person, I would say like imagine it was somebody from like the Jersey Shore like situation starring in this. Like, you would hate it, right?
Well, he is playing a very situation.
It's true, but I'm think about it. Like, you would hate it. So I don't know if it was just like the love for him that kind of made me sort of think it was watchable. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know anything about like what the reviews are for this. So I don't know like how critics are
pretty positive. There are a lot of it was on Rotten Tomatoes. It's a lot of them were like he does a really good job in it, and kudos for him for directing, writing, and starring, and but it does have its faults.
And I liked a lot of the filmmaking in terms of like the editing, and
it was stylized.
It was very stylized, and it was cool because it had that style. So I think if it didn't have that style, it really wouldn't have worked.
It would have felt
very
very
flat. The fact that it had that style made it feel more comedic in just the way it was shot. On top of the comedic moments in the movie. But as far as like the story, I don't think there was enough there. I think he had like, wouldn't this be funny? Because no one's done this before with like porn addiction and all this talk about sex addiction.
I mean, there was the Michael Fassbender one with the having a sex addiction and stuff like that.
Right, but it's not like the main.
No, and this is more comedy too.
Yeah,
I mean,
so I think he was kind of like, but I don't know if there was enough there or enough foresight to see to want it to be that transcendental like message movie. Whereas I feel like most of it was just a comedy, and then at the end they're like, well, we can't just make this whole movie about porn, so let's make this little message at the end. And then that was kind of weird with the way that ends up. There's another relationship that comes into play that's just very weird and very unrealistic. I mean, in my opinion, I don't think that would happen in real life, but who knows?
No, it does. It happens a lot in real life.
But I don't know. It was just so weird. It was just so weird that it just was weird for me. But if you like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he is good in it, and that's about all I can say, really.
Yeah, so I like this movie enough, I would say, to recommend it to the right person. That someone who's looking for a movie that is done, a little stylistically and is telling a different story than we normally see. But this movie does have its faults. The family is very stereotypical Italian to a point where it's kind of like, they just pulled this. It reminds me of Silver Linings Playbook, but I think that was a little more subdued, hard to believe than this one was. But still, Tony Danza was in this movie, and he did have some good moments, and I liked the family interactions, and I think the whole cast as a whole did a good job. I
think with that though, that was trying to be more realistic portrayal, whereas this was trying to be caricatures of the Italian stereotypes.
And then the movie was very repetitive, which I think was good because it showed kind of how he was living his life. He had his likes, and it's said in the promos for this that it's this and this, and he really was set in his ways. And I think that though it was covered kind of hastily in the last 15 minutes, like you said, of the movie, it did show his character grow, and there were like physical signs that you saw him grow as a person, some actions that he took that he wouldn't have taken earlier in the movie. So I think the character grew enough that it showed the change, and it really was about connecting. His inability to connect with people was translated with his porn addiction. So it was kind of like it could have been done better, but I think it got across enough, and it's very impressive that he did write and direct this, and it's a new story, which is nice too. That
true. It's different for sure.
Yeah, so I would recommend it overall, but it does certainly have its flaws.
Yeah, sure. So I think if you like him, I think that it's very much worth it.
This is funny. So, we knew what the movie was going into it, and these two very old people walked in, right, and sat in the first row, and I could only imagine. This is a hard R-rated movie.
There's a lot of cursing and a lot of nudity. Not just the porn, but also the characters.
Scenes in the movie. So, and they made it through the end, so kudos to them.
Yeah. So check out Don Jon. It's in theaters now. It's a pretty good outing for him, so I'm excited to see what else he does, from here.
So it's that time of the episode where we like to give our thanks. Chad, what are you thankful for today?
So there were a couple announcements this week from Steam, which were very interesting, from Valve, not from Steam.
Yeah.
But had to do with Steam. The Steam OS, Steam, if you don't know, is the storefront and kind of gaming platform on PC right now. But they're actually releasing an OS for it, which it's supposed to work in your living room, though I don't know how that's supposed to differ from a console. They also announced a piece of hardware and a touchscreen controller. So
controller looks odd.
It looks weird. It
really
looks weird.
Odd.
I'm reserving judgment to see, but it just seems like a weird time to announce this kind of stuff. They really did build it up with we're gonna have 3 big announcements, this week. And I'm trying to see where they're trying to go with their niche. I love what Steam has done with gaming on the PC in terms of bringing that iTunes kind of model.
The availability of the games, the
great.
sales they do are incredible.
Yeah, it's awesome. Not just games, but they also have sales on other pieces of software, which is really cool. I just don't know that it seems like they're trying to do a lot, and I just hope that they stay good at what they're
and
good
the
at.
internet is a very fickle community, and they've definitely got on Steam for some of the missteps they've taken before, and they'll be the first to point out that it's not working.
So we shall see. So it's sort of an thanks. So we don't know yet.
Yeah, and then for my thanks this week, it's the week where everything's premiering, shows are coming back. So, I spent a lot of time watching Parks and Rec, How I Met Your Mother, shows that, Big Bang Theory, shows that I do enjoy. But I was able to catch a couple shows that we're not going to get the chance to review. So I'm going to do, for my 2 thanks this week, 2 mini reviews of shows that that caught my interest. The first up is The Blacklist, which stars James Spader. And it is the story of America's most wanted criminal. He pretty much, he does, allow himself to be captured. And he will only talk with this one girl who just got hired that day. And it's, he's giving up other criminals that he's worked with. And, it was a very intriguing show that pulled me into it. I was happy to see James Spader kind of in this role. I was the entire time drawing comparisons. Oh, how's he going to play Ultron? How's he going to do this? Things like that. But, enough interest, enough intrigue, enough mystery. I think it was a really strong pilot. I might lose it halfway through the first season, I could see. Yeah. But, enough kept me in for the pilot to come back. So check that out, The Blacklist.
Yeah, I haven't checked that out yet, but it's one that I definitely want to see. A lot of people have said a lot of good things.
It was the highest amount of views for the opening of any other show.
Cool, so we're going to be back on Thursday talking about another show that premiered this week.
Agents of
S.H.I.E.L.D., Marvel's new television show by Joss Whedon. So make sure you check back for that. But thanks for watching this episode, and we'll see you next time.